Hey, thanks for watching. Um, the main purpose of this video is not only to show you my build and maybe give people some ideas. I think it's kind of a neat one, but at the same time, get feedback, and I'm sure people would have a lot to say because I'm by no means super experienced or an expert at this game. You probably find a lot of flaws with my build, but at the same time, I'm more of a casual player, and this just seems to work for me. So maybe those people who play but don't play religiously might actually like this build. The main thing to get it right off the bat is this is a dual bow build, which I know is frowned upon. I think it's kind of funny. I like kind of like being the outcast, so I like going against the grain. So I decided to do a dual bow. Not to mention I'm a woodworker and a clother, so I can pretty much craft all my own materials. Don't have to find people to craft, daggers for me. Um, so this is the whole thing, is I have a skill line for single target and a skill line um, for AoE. So my single target, um, and before I start this, I should probably mention the thing is that when I see people broadcasting videos, especially with night blades, it's a lot of 3-4 buffs and then all these rotations. And I get it, it works. They're really successful. I mean, these damage outputs are crazy that some people can put up. For me, I'm not that way. I mean, I try to help out in dungeons and stuff when I can, but for me it's more casual, so I want to make sure I get decent damage without driving myself crazy and feeling like a robot. So I only have a couple buffs, so I'll just show you those. I mean, theoretically three, but one passive, so I'm going to show you those real quick. First of all, for the skills, I have my Camouflage Hunter, Fighter Skilled ability. I don't use the passive, it doesn't really work in PvP for me either, but um, the active ability, I mean. The passive here is the increase in weapon critical, and then that minor berserk for 6 seconds after you deal critical damage from crouch. And I always crouch when I first shoot an arrow. Um, and this is a permanent stat with a critical rating as long as you have this slotted. So it's really great. The other thing is people don't really see ambush on a bow line. It's more just bow skills. So this is kind of a surprise to some people. I've only seen one person use it aside for me. Um, I like this a lot because it kind of gives me a little bit of movement throughout crowds of enemies. It also increases the damage of your next attack, and it's an assassination skill, so it gives you the um, extra critical rating I can show you later. Not to mention, if you're getting attacked or you're in somebody's, red circle, it's a quick way to get out instead of dodge rolling. Um, different situations for that. The lethal arrow, I morph this to do the poison damage plus the overtime damage. It's the same base damage plus an extra additional poison damage is not going to hurt anybody. I also like the Major Defile, just because it reduces the healing done to target enemies, so it helps a lot in PvP when people are always healing themselves, and bosses in dungeons when the ads are healing them or whatever. Really helpful. Um, the Reaper's Mark I use, not for the reason that you might think. Um, I do like the resistance breaching and the spell resistance breaching. Um, I do like the Berserk, increasing damage done by 25% after that person has died. That really helps out. The main reason I have it is for that health regen. As you can see in my stats right now, I have all my points in stamina, none in health, which might be frowned upon once again, but like I said, I go against the grain. So we'll see what happens with that. Just to kind of give you perspective right now, as long as I'm here, um, I have my main things are the weapon damage here, which is 3842, and the weapon critical. Keep in mind I'm crouching right now, so my weapon damage is a little bit higher. The weapon critical pretty much stays the same because of the passives that I have. Um, Going back to my skills, the Reaper's Mark, what I use it for is survivability. So if I'm in a crowd of enemies and I'm getting hit, um, it's a nice way to make sure that I kill that target that I have marked. That'll restore my health, and I can keep using that on targets that are, and if I'm in a dungeon, I'll pick the target with the lowest health so I can get the regen as quick as I can. It really helps for survivability. Um, I also have the Relentless Focus, which is a very popular one. I do like the Assassin's Scourge at the bottom here, where hitting 5 lighter heavy attacks does change the ability. You can proc that. It does a decent amount of damage, especially since I have my critical rating way up. So with the critical, it's pretty awesome. But the main thing is that I have the damage increase once again, and then the stamina recovery does help. And like I said, I'll proc that disease damage, whenever it pops up. Um, I also use the heavy attacks to restore my stamina too after spamming my lethal arrow, so it's pretty helpful. For my ultimate, I used to have the bow ability. I changed to the Dawnbreaker. For the fighter skill abilities, having those abilities slotted gives you a 3% increase for every fighter skill ability you have slotted on that line. Right now this is a fighter skill ability, and this is. So that's a 6% damage increase, not to mention the 5% just on this alone. I like the physical damage that it does and the damage over time. I also just think it's kind of fun if you're feeling ballsy to, for example, ambush into a group of enemies and then use that Dawnbreaker. Dawnbreaker is also great if you're getting hit by a mob of enemies who are maybe all near, half health, and you can kind of finish them off pretty quickly in a pinch situation. So real simple. I mean, even without buffing, I can pretty much do a lot of damage, but this will probably be a one hit. Yeah, see, one hit shot right there. The reason I like the Reaper's Mark is I'll do a little bit of damage to her. Alright, so I'll take some damage. And then if there's a mob of enemies doing this to me, I need to heal. There, I'm healed. Then I can spam it again. And then do that, so it's very good for survivability. My bread and butter when it comes to keeping myself alive. So, the thing about this build is that there's really a lot of people that I see showing builds. They, refer to different spots as free spots or freebies. They say whatever works best for you can throw here. For me, it's hard to do that because every single ability really has a purpose. So if I were to change anything, I mean, if I had to change one thing, maybe I'd take out the ambush and put a different bow ability or something in there. But everything else I'd keep. But even the ambush, I have a hard time getting rid of. Like I said, it's very nice to be able to use that mobility to move around and stun. Not to mention that extra increase in weapon critical really helps. That's my main... That's what I usually use. When I'm in dungeons and stuff, I'll switch to the AoE when we have a tank. Even without the tank, I still use the AoE. So I still have on my skill line, I have the Camouflage Hunter, that's the same. And the ambush I have the same. More so because I like to ambush in and do the Flawless Dawnbreaker. So I will kind of start out with the Endless Hail. I'll use an Endless Hail, it's an AoE, 1429 damage for every half a second. I attack from crouch a lot, so just look at the increase. Whoops. Should show an increase. Yeah, 1610, so that's over 3,000 damage every second to the people in that circle. Then I'll throw that down once. I'll use Acid Spray. Does good burst damage. Keep in mind I'll be standing by that point, so it'll do a little less damage. Burst damage. Damage over time with the poison damage. Once they're taking effects from both those, I'll kind of roll in to the circle where my arrows are flying down, just to kind of keep those enemies, especially the melee ones, in that circle. Since there's no tank, the second they see me, they run out of my circle and they are out of my arrow circle and they start attacking me. So I'll kind of dodge roll around and I'll spam the silver shards, kind of keep them in that circle. It works pretty well. And then once again I have the Dawnbreaker. So in this skill line I have 3 fighter skill abilities, counting the Dawnbreaker, so that's even a bigger damage increase. So just to kind of show you, well, those mud crabs see me, so I'm not going to be stealthy, but just to show you what kind of goes on. And then, oh, they ran out, but... I mean, so it works pretty well. It's kind of fun. And when you're in dungeons with a tank, you don't have to necessarily worry about rolling around in that. I'm not sure why I'm chopping wood during the video. You don't have to worry about rolling around in that group of people when there's a tank that's keeping the ads, in a certain spot. So it's pretty nice that way. Just to kind of show you my my ratings, I showed you this is my main skill line with the weapon damage increase, 3553, and then 69.7 critical. I'm loving that. Almost every hit's critical. It's pretty sweet. And then with the weapon swap, a little bit higher damage because those fighter skill abilities. Slightly less weapon critical rating because I have less assassination abilities slotted in that one. Um, Real quick, I'll go over the gear because my gear is pretty basic, but it works really well. So I have the Hunting's Rage just because I can craft that myself. It's simple, the damage is good, critical's good. Um, I like it a lot. It's very flat and straightforward and it works. I also have the flanking set. I used to have all 5 pieces to do this extra damage, behind enemies, but you're not always going to be behind an enemy, so it's very situational, especially during a boss. Having to rotate and get around that boss is kind of annoying when they're always twisting and turning different ways. So I actually took that last piece out. The reason I went with the flanking set, though, was because of the jewelry. Every single piece of the flanking set has a weapon damage enchantment on it. Um, and you can't really find many items that have weapon damage enchantments in the jewelry. There's very limited sets. Mostly for Nightblades, there's like stamina increase or stamina regen and things like that. This really helps with the weapon damage. I tried switching this out with a different set, and I really suffered a huge loss with weapon damage. It was really hard to see, so I had to bring it right back. Instead of this 5th piece, what I did is with the Morrowind update, I created Shacklebreaker boots. I don't care about really the hybrid type stats here. I like that first 2-item bonus right there is I have the 129 weapon damage because I also created a Shacklebreaker bow. Obviously being a medium armor wood elf archer, I made sure I was a clother and a woodworker. So for the most part, I can actually craft everything myself, which is really great. They're very self-sufficient. Really seems to work for me. I have my Munda Stone increase is actually the critical damage, and every single piece of armor has the divines. So my character has the critical damage increase. For food, I usually just go with the basic 2 stat, the dual stat, increasing your max health just for, like I said, survivability because I'm very squishy, and then that max stamina, increasing your stamina will obviously increase your damage output of those physical abilities, which is very cool. Potions, I usually have the Essence of Health slotted just because, like I said, if that Reaper's Mark is failing me, it's a last minute attempt to increase my health if there's no healer around or whatever. Lately I've been trying things like this just to kind of increase your weapon damage like in dungeons, so I could be a little more efficient and impactful in those. So that's really about it. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, I'm not new, definitely, at this game. I've been playing for a while, but I'm not super experienced. Like, I don't consider myself an avid, I'm just more of a casual, do-it-for-fun kind of person. So this build might have a lot of flaws you guys see in it, which is totally fine. Feel free to, give your opinions. That's what I'm looking for. But it's been working pretty well for me. I really like it a lot. So, alright, thanks for watching.